Stop, for a second, ever wonder if maybe you're the one sabotaging your own life. Yes, you, the one listening while scrolling for answers online. Let me guess, you complain about your life, regret the past, worry about the future, and without even noticing, you cling to habits that guarantee unhappiness. But hey, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to wake you up. In today's video, we're going to break down 10 silent mistakes that ruin your happiness, and you're so used to them, you don't even notice. As the Stoics used to say, pain doesn't come from what happens, but from how you choose to face it. So, do you dare look in the mirror and face what's really holding you back? If you don't do it today, tomorrow will just be another day of excuses. Don't miss the last mistake. It'll leave you speechless. Let's begin. But before we dive in, listen to this story. It'll help you understand the wisdom behind today's message. Once upon a time, in a noisy city, there lived a man named Marcos, known for being an incredible carpenter. Everyone admired his work. But Marcos carried something invisible. He constantly compared himself to other carpenters. One day, while building a chair, he saw a post on social media, a photo of a piece made by another craftsman. Instead of appreciating his own work, he sighed and thought, I'll never be that good. That thought stuck with him, buzzing in his head like a fly. From then on, Marcos started rushing his work, trying to chase the perfection he thought everyone else had. But the more he pushed, the more unsatisfied he became. He began making little mistakes, a loose screw here, a miscut edge there. Each slip fed his frustration. One afternoon, his friend Roll dropped by the workshop. He saw the tension on Marcos's face. What's eating you, man? He asked. I'm just not good enough. Marcos sighed. Raul paused, then pointed to a table Marcos had built months ago. That table, he said, has held dinners, laughter, and memories in my home. I never once thought it was poorly made. You see flaws because you're always looking for them. But everyone else, they see your gift. That night, those words echoed in Marcos' mind. He realized something. He had been carrying an invisible burden. He stopped valuing his own work, started chasing validation instead of honoring his effort and dedication. From that moment on, he began to see his craft through new eyes. He didn't stop improving, but now he enjoyed the process instead of chasing comparison. The lesson: we often carry invisible mistakes that make us unhappy. We compare ourselves, we chase perfection, we crave approval, and in doing so, we forget the quiet joy of simply being and building before we jump into the first lesson. If you find these videos helpful, I invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on what really matters. Let's begin. 1. Holding a grudge. Ever had someone wrong you, and instead of letting it go, you replay it over and over in your head for days, weeks, even years? Let me tell you something. That's one of the fastest ways to sabotage your own peace. And yeah, you might think you're being wise by refusing to forgive, by holding on to that grudge. But in truth, you're only hurting yourself. A grudge is nothing more than an anchor tying you down. to a deserted island, called resentment. And though it feels like power, all it really does is steal your peace. Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what we do. We hold on to pain, relive the wound over and over, and in the process, we forget to live. It's a trap, a lie. We keep repeating because it sounds noble. I don't forget, I'll never forgive. But here's the truth, you don't even realize how much your own bitterness is costing you the longer you carry that snowball of resentment. The heavier it gets, until one day it crushes you. Remember the Stoics, the ones who didn't waste their lives crying over things they couldn't control? Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. They had one thing in common. They never let resentment run their lives. Why? Because they knew clinging to the negative only ends up hurting you. They taught that the only thing you ever truly control is your reaction. So if you keep feeding that grudge, fine, but don't be surprised when you're stuck in the same loop. In the end, the only one who suffers is you. Want the antidote? Here it is. When someone hurts you, just remember, you can't change what happened, but you can decide how to carry it. If you keep obsessing over it, you'll lose your energy, your time, even your health. The way out: shift your perspective. Not easy, but possible. First, you have to admit what you feel. Don't speak to yourself. If it hurt, and it's okay to say it out loud. But don't turn it into your whole story. If you keep carrying it, you won't leave any space to heal. Next, accept that not everything is in your control. Just like the Stoics taught, you can't change what others do, but you can choose how you respond, and that gives you real peace. Forgiveness has nothing to do with letting someone off the hook. It's not about them, it's about you letting go of a weight you don't need to carry anymore. Forgiveness, in truth, is a gift you give yourself. So if you want to take back your life, if you want to stop drinking the poison of resentment, live by this principle. Here's a small but powerful habit. Practice gratitude. When that grudge starts creeping in, change the channel. Think about what's right in your life, what's good, what's still working. Write it down. If that helps, it's a simple way to pull your mind back to what matters. If you keep holding on to resentment, you're only hurting yourself. The grudge won't change the past. It'll just keep you chained to it. Is it worth it? Sure, if you want your life to be a roller coaster of constant emotional chaos. But if you're looking for peace, then maybe it's time to stop giving that shadow so much space. In the end, as the Stoics would say, the one who offends you, the one who angers you, controls you. Like Epictetus put it, forgiving isn't a gift for them, it's a gift for you. 2. Regretting the past. Have you spent your life regretting what you did or what you didn't do? Probably not, because if you had, you'd be reading something way more depressing than this. But if you're one of those people who gets lost in the what-ifs, let me tell you something. You're stuck in the past, and the worst part, you don't even see that this is what's quietly making you unhappy. Because yeah, regret feels like a noble emotion. It sounds responsible, reflective. I should have done this. I could have done that. But here's the truth. That mindset makes you a prisoner, not of your past, but of your own imagination. Look, we all mess up. You're not special in that. And if somehow you were, then that would only mean you're more alone than a dog at a cat party. What really matters is how you respond to those mistakes. If you keep thinking about what you did wrong, how you could have done it better, what you lost, it's like staring at an old map, hoping it'll show you a different route when you're not even in that place anymore. The problem isn't the mistake. It's how much time you spend regretting it. The Stoics would tell you, you can't change the past. That's just the truth. You could regret something for hours, days, years, but none of that will turn back time. All it'll do is feed and say, anxiety, that keeps you stuck. It's like trying to start a car with no gas. You keep pushing, keep trying, hoping for a miracle, but the engine won't turn. So what can you actually do about it? Start here, accept what you can't change. That's step one. The Stoics talked about this all the time. Don't torture yourself over what's out of your control. Instead, focus on what is your attitude, your next move, how you respond to what happens now. Still stuck on a bad decision from a year ago? Fine, own it, but don't stop there. Ask yourself, what can I do today to avoid making the same mistake again? That lesson, that's what will make you grow. So instead of saying, I messed up, try asking, what can I do now to move forward? The truth is, what you do today is the only thing that shapes your future. So the next time you catch yourself stuck in regret, remember, time is limited. You can't waste it on what's already gone. Let that weight dissolve. Turn it into action, because if you keep getting lost in what never was, you'll never see what could still be. Truth is, all we really have is the present, and how we use it, that decides whether we stay in the shadows of the past or step into the light of who we're becoming. Like Seneca said, what keeps us tied to the past is the false belief that we can somehow change it. 3. Worrying about the future. Sometimes we live our whole lives staring into the future, like we're holding a crystal ball, thinking we can predict it, control it, manage every single step. But here's the problem: that obsession with what hasn't even happened yet. It's stealing your peace. And the worst part, you don't even realize it. Let's be clear, I'm not saying ignore the future and live like a reckless fool. It's not about jumping off cliffs and hoping things work out. It's about not getting trapped in that endless spiral of what if, because the future, it's full of unknowns, and no matter how much control you think you have, you don't. Worrying about it, thinking non-stop about what hasn't even happened yet, is like running on a hamster wheel. You're moving, but you're not getting anywhere. The Stoics, they knew this well. They didn't drown in problems that didn't exist yet. They focused on one thing, the present moment, the future. It's uncertain, always has been. So why waste your energy trying to control what's out of reach? Picture this: you're standing on a bridge, looking down at the river. The water's rushing fast, you can hear it roar. You know, you need to jump in to move forward, but instead you freeze, you overthink. What if the water's too cold? What if the rocks are sharp? What if I slip, fall, and don't make it back up? And while you're stuck in your thoughts, the river keeps flowing, the bridge stays the same, and you stay still, missing everything. You could have lived. Sound familiar? That's the trap of living in the future. So how can we avoid this mistake? that makes us unhappy without even realizing it. First, start becoming more aware of your thoughts. Every time you catch yourself thinking about something that might happen, recognize that the thought probably makes no real sense. Worrying about what you can't control only drains you. Second, set clear goals. For the present, don't let fear of the future paralyze you. Do something, anything, right now that moves you closer to your goals, even if it's small. If you take a step into the river with steady footing, it won't matter as much how strong the current is. And lastly, make gratitude your ally. Appreciate in what you have today. Enjoy what's around you. Accept that the future will unfold gradually, and it doesn't need you to obsess over it. Remember, the future is just an illusion that can steal the present if you let it. Don't let it run over you. As Marcus Aurelius said, happiness isn't found in what's coming, it's found in what you already have. 4. Living beyond your means. It feels so normal that you don't even notice. Let's break it down. We live in a society that constantly bombards you with the idea that you need more money, more stuff, more status, as if having more were the answer to everything that worries you. And if you don't reach that more, then something must be wrong with you. But you know what? You're mistaken. Living beyond your means isn't just about spending more than you have. It also means filling your life with commitments and unrealistic expectations, as if you were some kind of superhuman. Now, don't fool yourself. We've all fallen into the trap of wanting to be more, expecting more from ourselves, doing more. But the problem is, when you try to do everything, you end up doing nothing well. It's like trying to fill a bag that's already torn. And the worst part, most of the time, you don't even realize the bag is useless, or that by trying to fill it at all costs, you're wearing yourself out for nothing. Imagine you're running a race where your only competitor is yourself. The finish line is on the horizon, but along the way, you decide to carry everything you find: a few stones, a backpack full of other people's expectations, and some of your own insecurities. At first, you might feel invincible, but little by little, the weight starts to bring you down. That, my friend, is what happens when you live beyond your means. You don't realize what you're carrying until you can't carry it anymore. And this is where the Stoics can teach you something valuable. The art of focusing only on what you can actually control. They understood that true peace comes from accepting your limits, not from constantly trying to go beyond them. How do you do that? First, you need to be honest with yourself. Acknowledge that you can't do everything, and that even if you're not perfect, you can still be enough. It's a change in mindset, a step back, so you can move forward with more clarity. The first step is accepting that speed isn't everything. You need to make more conscious decisions, ones that involve doing fewer things, but doing them better. Start by evaluating your priorities. What really matters to you? What can you dedicate time to that fulfills you instead of draining you? Make a list of the things that sap your energy and start removing them. Saying no to certain commitments doesn't make you less of a person. In fact, it makes you wiser. Second, find your balance. As the Stoics teach us, peace comes from moderation. You don't need to be a superhero. You just need to be yourself. You don't have to be all-powerful to succeed. Most of the time, It's about enjoying the process without the weight of unrealistic expectations. Practice gratitude and learn to value what you already have instead of constantly chasing what you can't reach. The secret isn't in doing more, it's in doing what you can better. When you live within your means, you not only protect your mental and emotional health, you also become more effective at what really matters. Don't forget, you don't always need more to be happy. Sometimes having less leads you to find much more burn. This into your mind, my friend. Real freedom isn't about having more. It's about learning to be happy with what you already have. 5. Criticism. Let me tell you straight, criticism isn't as bad as you think. What makes it unbearable is the way you receive it. It's like when someone throws a ball and instead of catching it, you just watch it hit you in the face. Sound familiar? That ball is criticism, and believe me, it won't hurt if you know how to handle it. Most of the time, criticism shows up wearing a mask. It feels like someone saying, "Hey, you didn't do this right," and instantly you get defensive. You think, why can't they just leave me alone? Why don't they see the good I'm doing? But here's the trick, my friend. Criticism isn't your enemy trying to destroy you. It's just information disguised, and if you don't know how to see that, you'll get stuck in a victim mindset where the world is always at fault and you never ask what part you played. Here's the real mistake: thinking that criticism itself is what's making you unhappy. You complain about being criticized, but the truth is, the problem lies in how you receive it. Those moments when, instead of seeing criticism as a chance to grow, you take it as a personal attack. Think about it. Criticism has no power over you unless you give it that power. It's a bit like Stoic philosophy. The only thing you truly control is your reaction. Everything else, just noise. And if that noise is making you unhappy, it's because you let it into your head. The first step is simple but powerful. Stop taking everything personally. It's not all about you. Not everyone is out to make your life harder. Criticism is just a reflection of how someone else perceives what you did. That doesn't define you. If you don't get that, imagine this: you paint a picture and someone says, "That's awful." Does that ruin the painting, or does it just bother you that someone didn't like it? The answer lies in how you perceive it. Next, and this one's harder, learn to separate what you can control from what you can't. If someone criticizes you because something didn't go well, the first thing to do is breathe, take a step back, and ask yourself, is there something I can actually do about this? If the answer is yes, great. Work on improving. If the answer is no, then why waste time going in circles over something you can't fix? The Stoic philosophy would say it like this: don't fight the waves, flow with them. Instead of resisting what's inevitable, accept the situation and focus on what you can learn from it. Accepting criticism isn't easy, and I'm not saying you have to be perfect at it. But if you start to understand that criticism isn't an attack on your identity, but a chance to grow, you'll begin to find peace in the middle of the storm. Don't let criticism knock you off your path, and definitely don't let it make you feel worthless. What really matters isn't what others say about you, but how you respond to it. At the end of the day, the only thing you truly control is your own mind. As Gandhi said, What others say about you only matters if you let it. Learn to take control of your mind, and criticism will become nothing more than background noise. 6. Chronic complaining. Have you ever stopped to think about how much you complain? I'm not judging, I'm just holding up a mirror, like seeing your own face after a long day without makeup or filters. Chronic complaining is like poison disguised as casual conversation. It makes you feel better, but spoiler, it really doesn't. In fact, it makes you even more unhappy than you realize. And the worst part, you don't even notice it. The problem with complaining is that it traps you in a vicious cycle. It starts with something small, a little annoyance here, a bit of frustration there, but before you know it, complaining becomes a habit, and that habit shapes the way you see the world. Instead of learning to solve problems, you become an expert at pointing out how bad everything is without moving a finger to fix anything. It's like standing in the middle of a tornado and complaining about the wind instead of looking for shelter. But of course, you tell yourself, life is full of injustice. Everything keeps getting worse. Nothing ever goes right for me. Sure, those complaints sound legitimate, don't they? Maybe they are. Life isn't always easy, and it's definitely not all sunshine and rainbows. But here's the trick. Constant complaining makes you feel like you're in control, when in reality, you're not. The Stoics, those philosophers who seemed to know everything, believed that one of the biggest mistakes we make is falling into the trap of complaining. They recommended a different approach. Instead of focusing on what you can't change, focus on what you can control. And here's spoiler number 2. What you can control is your reaction to what happens, not the situation itself. The first step to stop complaining is becoming aware that you're doing it. Like when you suddenly realize you've been staring at your phone for hours without any real purpose. If you can catch yourself before you start complaining, you're already winning. That awareness is key to keeping complaints from becoming a habit that traps you without you even realizing. Once you can identify the complaint, the next step is to replace it with action. Complaining keeps you stuck in a state of paralysis, like a video game character, complaining that the game is hard, but never picking up the controller. If you take action, even something small, you'll start to see how the complaint loses its grip. And that brings us to something crucial. Shift your focus. Instead of dwelling on what you don't have, reflect on what you do have. It's not about pretending everything is perfect, but about finding something to be grateful for, no matter how small. Gratitude, like rain, can transform everything it touches. Also, give yourself a break now and then. Life isn't a race. Not everything has to be solved right this second. Sometimes the best way to deal with a problem is to take a step back, breathe, and look at things with a clear mind. When you do that, you'll realize that many of your complaints don't have a real foundation, and that your happiness depends more on your perspective than on your external circumstances. It's true, the world is full of things we can't control, but what really matters is how we respond to them. Those who complain don't solve problems. Those who take action do. If you stop dwelling on what you can't change and focus on what you can, you'll see how your happiness starts to rise, even if just a little. And that little bit is more than enough to change your perspective and maybe even your life. 7. Addictions. Have you ever stopped to think how many times you tell yourself something makes you happy only to realize later it was just an excuse to avoid facing what really bothered you? It's strange how sometimes addictions sell us the idea of happiness wrapped in a shiny box, only for us to open it and find nothing but emptiness. And no, I'm not just talking about drugs or alcohol. We're talking about all kinds of addictions, to work, to social media, to external validation, all those little things that make us feel like we're moving forward, when in reality, we're stuck. Let's take a closer look at these mistakes that are quietly making us more unhappy. Did you know that addictions, in any form, are just a way to avoid facing our real problems? At first, they seem like they're offering a solution, a cigarette, a screen, a workload, something that makes you feel like you're in control. But if you look closer, you'll realize they're actually the ones controlling you. And no, I'm not just talking about moments of weakness. It's more subtle than that. A simple, "I'll do it tomorrow," or "just a little more," won't hurt is enough to start building an invisible chain that ties you to that behavior. Stoic philosophy teaches us if you can't control what happens to you, you can at least control how you respond. But addictions take that away from us. They make us believe that happiness depends on something external, something outside our control, when in reality, the real key is inside us. Imagine you have a safe, but instead of using it to store your valuable thoughts and emotions, you start stuffing it with things that just take up space. Old clothes, forgotten bills, memories from a time that no longer exists. That's what it feels like when we let ourselves be consumed by addictions. And hey, not everything about addiction feels dramatic. Sometimes it even feels good. For a moment, it gives you relief, like everything's okay. But as soon as that high fades, you realize you're stuck in a vicious cycle that leads nowhere. It's a mistake to believe that temporary relief equals lasting happiness, because it doesn't. It's like patching up a boat that has a hole in the hull. Maybe it won't sink right away, but sooner or later, the water will come in. So what can you do? Well, the solution isn't to cut out your addictions overnight. It's not that simple. But if you have some willpower and a lot of awareness, you can start by observing yourself. Ask, what is this really giving me? Do I actually need it, or more? Importantly, what am I avoiding by clinging to this? If you can figure out the root of your addiction, it'll be easier to start questioning it and slowly letting it go. In the end, addictions are just mistakes disguised as quick fixes. They fool you. They make you think they're saving you, when really they're feeding your anxiety. As a wise Stoic once said, true freedom begins when we stop being slaves to our own illusions. It's not about cutting out everything that gives you short-term pleasure. It's about starting to see that happiness isn't found in what you consume, but in what you're able to let go of. 8. Gossiping about others. Have you ever stopped to think about how much time you spend talking about other people? Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about normal conversations where a friend tells you something interesting, I mean those moments when you sit down with someone and start speaking badly about someone else. You comment on what you don't like about their life, their clothes, or worse, their personality. That's the kind of gossip that slips in without you noticing, but ends up doing you more harm than good. And if you don't realize this, it might be one of the mistakes that's making you unhappy, because yes, gossiping isn't just a bad habit, it's also a mistake that pulls you away from peace of mind. Gossip is like that junk food you know is bad for you, but you keep eating it because it's easier than preparing something healthy. Talking about others gives you a short-term feeling of satisfaction, as if criticizing someone puts you on a pedestal, like you're better than them, like you have something they don't, and in that moment, you forget what really matters, your own well-being. The funny thing is, Stoic philosophy, a way of life that still teaches us more than most trends, would tell you that what others think or do shouldn't concern you. The Stoics taught us to focus on what we can control and not waste energy on what's outside of us. And here's the key: when you obsess over what others are doing or not doing, you lose all the energy you could be putting into your own growth. Gossip is a dangerous distraction. It keeps your eyes on everyone else instead of your own path. Think about it. What good does it really do you to know what someone else is doing wrong? Does it bring you peace? No. Does it make you happier? No. Does it make you a better person? I don't think so. Gossip empties you. It pulls you away from what you should be doing, growing, learning, living with integrity, and all that time you spend talking about others is time you'll never get back. It's that simple. The good news is, getting out of the gossip spiral isn't that hard. The key is being aware of what you're doing. Like everything in life, the first step is recognizing there's a problem. Remember those conversations where you spend hours criticizing someone. Next time you catch yourself in one of those, ask a simple question: is this helping me become a better person? If the answer is no, cut the topic off. Stop feeding that empty conversation. And if someone else insists on gossiping, use the moment to steer the talk towards something positive, or better yet, walk away from it. Another Stoic tactic: practice indifference. Don't waste time talking about things you can't change. If someone is doing something you don't like, just observe it and move on. Remember, your peace of mind is more important than any judgment about someone else's life. Make inner calm your priority, and everything else will start to lose its importance. If you still don't see it, I'll say it again: talking about others won't make you happy. In the end, it just drains you and keeps you from focusing on what truly matters. 9. Being driven by fear. Sometimes, without realizing it, we make decisions that don't benefit us at all. And yes, those decisions are often driven by fear. Why? Because since we were kids, we've been told that fear is normal, that it protects us. But the truth is, fear, that uncomfortable companion, can cause more harm than you imagine, and without realizing it, it leads us down paths that not only don't help, they fill our lives with mistakes we're not even aware we're making. It's easy to see fear as a superhero, right? It warns us of danger, alerts us to risk, but the truth, sometimes fear is nothing more than an excuse dressed up as wisdom, like a thief, knocking at your door, telling you he's here to protect you, when really he's just here to steal your peace. Picture this: you're standing in front of an opportunity, maybe a new job, a life change, a relationship. It all seems perfect, but something inside you feels nervous, insecure. That's fear. The question is, are you going to let fear decide for you? Because if you do, you're sentencing yourself to a life of what-ifs and maybes. And trust me, that's not the road to happiness. It's the road to regret. The Stoics talked a lot about how emotions affect us and how we should manage them. For them, fear wasn't something to avoid, but something to understand and deal with wisely. What if, instead of running from fear, you paused for a second? What if, instead of giving in, you asked, do I really have something to lose here? The key is realizing that not everything that scares you is actually dangerous. A lot of the fear we feel exists only in our minds. First, pause. If fear is eating you up inside, breathe. Don't make impulsive decisions. Fear has this incredible ability to make us act without thinking, and impulsive decisions almost always take us down the wrong path. But if, instead of reacting, you take a moment to reflect, you'll realize that what seemed like a threat was actually just a shadow cast by your own mind. Second, make a list of your fears. Sounds strange, but when we write down what scares us, things often become clearer. We often find that our fears are exaggerated or even completely made up. Like when someone tells you a scary story, that keeps you up at night. But the next day, you realize the monster was just a shadow. Do the opposite of what fear tells you. I know it sounds crazy, but when you dare to take the step that fear is keeping you from, you realize life doesn't punish you, it welcomes you. It's like jumping into cold water. At first, your legs shake, but once you're in, you wonder why you didn't do it sooner. 10. Making problems bigger than they are. Have you ever had such a small problem that, when you looked at it from a different angle, you realized you'd turned it into a mountain when it was really just a stone in the road? If that's happened to you, you're not alone. The truth is, we're often experts at turning a minor stumble into total collapse. Why? Because we convince ourselves that the worst is always coming, and we cling to that belief as if suffering were some kind of badge of honor you earn at the end of the day. But you know what? The Stoics, those wise philosophers of the past, had a much more sensible way of looking at things, and surprisingly, it didn't involve unnecessary drama. There's a curious tendency in humans. We take something small and turn it into a catastrophe. You lose your car keys, and suddenly imagine yourself sleeping on the street. You have a bad day at work and start thinking you'll be fired by 3 p.m. We love to exaggerate, and worst of all, in doing so, we forget that 99% of those problems aren't as big as we think. If you've ever found yourself caught in one of those mental spirals where everything seems to be getting worse, it's probably because you're thinking with a fatalistic mindset. The Stoics, those old masters of Stoic philosophy, knew that what causes suffering isn't what happens to us, but how we react to it. It's not about losing the keys, It's about the mental storm we create around losing them. That's why the first step to not blowing problems out of proportion is learning to pause. Yes, pause, breathe, look at the problem in front of you and ask yourself, is this really as serious as I'm making it out to be? Is there something I can do about it? Will this still matter a week from now? Those three questions can shift your perspective from drama to clarity. Second, don't feed the problem with more thoughts than necessary. Sometimes overthinking is what really sinks the ship, not the water that got in. Learn to say, yes, this is a problem, but I won't make it bigger than it is. And third, focus on solutions. Every minute you spend complaining or exaggerating, you could be using to fix the problem, learn something from it, or simply move on. You're not perfect. No one is. But that doesn't mean you have to make life harder than it already is. Don't let your mind become your own worst enemy, because if you give it permission, your thoughts will build cages and convince you they're castles. Train your mind to look at problems for what they are, not for what fear makes them seem.